All right, welcome to tonight's Council on Post-Secondary Education. We're here on Wednesday, July 21st. Pursuant to Governor McKee's executive order, this is a virtual meeting streaming live over our Zoom webinar. I'm Chair Del Judas, and confirming that we have council members, Chair Barbara Cottom, Senator Tom Izzo, Mr. Duffy, Bishop Williams, and Mr. Mello, and Miss Green, who is present but not on camera at the moment. She'll return in a moment. The only member not present this evening is Miss Mary Ann Monty. And also we have our student member from Rhode Island College, Mackenzie Raymond, with us as well. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. And at some point during the meeting, we will go into executive session and to discuss a couple of items, and I'll go over the executive session rules and procedure at that time. At this point, may I have a motion that we accept the agenda for this evening's meeting, April 21st. Motion made by?
So moved.
Made by Bishop Williams, seconded by Mello. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you. Next is approval of the minutes of our March 31st meeting. May I have a motion that the council approve the minutes from our special meeting March 31st? Motion made by
Green.
Ms. Green, seconded by
Mello.
Mr. Mello. Jill, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Chairman Del Judas,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
Yes.
Bishop Williams.
Present.
Thank you, Jill. Motion is approved. Item 3 is report from the chairs. We're going to dispense with the reports from the chairs, and we're going to move right into the report from the commissioner. I believe Commissioner Gilkey, you have a report to proceed with, and over to you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. We got several items on the commissioner's report today. We're going to start with our COVID-19 update. As you know, the Office of the Post-Secondary Commissioner continues to coordinate across all 11 institutions of higher education the state coordinated response to the coronavirus. Now that all Rhode Islanders are eligible for a vaccine, we're actively working with all institutions to vaccinate their students, their faculty, and staff over the next few weeks. As of today, I'm thrilled to announce that we're going to have on-site clinicals at both Rhode Island College and the Community College of Rhode Island for students, faculty, and staff to receive their vaccines. We think this is a huge win for our students and our faculty and our staff that keep our campuses safe, and we're thrilled to announce that for our colleges. OPC will furthermore work with the Rhode, the Rhode Island Department of Health, and all of the institutions to develop a state policy on student vaccination for the fall. We're coordinating that out of this office. While it's unlikely that the state will mandate a vaccination, OPC will work with public and private colleges to determine what a state policy will look like and how that can be helpful for a safe reopening in the fall of 2021. Finally, OPC continues to work with Rhode to update guidance for all institutions of higher ed for this fall, which we will hope to disseminate in the next few weeks. So that is the report on update for COVID. An update on our Meeting the Moment agenda. At our retreat in March, we agreed to localize our post-secondary attainment goal, which is 70% of Rhode Islanders to have some form of credential by 2025, with a strategic emphasis on equitable attainment and alignment with Rhode Island's economy. Our office has started meeting with many of our local leaders across the state with the goal to connect with all 39 communities in the upcoming weeks. In doing so, meeting with those local communities, we want to do a few things. First, we want to localize their attainment data for the communities to really help local leaders understand where their community falls in an education attainment agenda. Second, we want to discuss how we might work together to build a local education attainment agenda for each community, because we know that you have to really grow this from the ground up in order for most Rhode Islanders or all Rhode Islanders to have that post-secondary credential of value. And third, we want to begin long-term relationships with communities, in order to really make sure that we have equitable attainment and that we're also meeting the needs of our employers across the state. We have to get into the communities. And so we've started doing that, and we'll continue to do that in the upcoming weeks in all 39 Rhode Island communities. In addition to localizing our attainment goal, we also agreed at our March retreat to really lead the state with moving our institutions forward in a couple ways. The first one is to ensure that Rhode Islanders have a seamless pathway from our community college to a four-year degree. Again, if you look at the economy, lifetime earnings, they're much more achieved overall, lifetime earnings. If you have that four-year degree, we want to make sure that every Rhode Islander has an opportunity through a pathway to do that from our community college. The second thing we want to do is to make sure that we continue to align efforts with our Rhode Island Department of Education to really focus on smoothing transitions from K-12 into post-secondary, things like college readiness, things like making sure that every Rhode Island high school student has that handoff that I like to say is a baton between K-12 and higher ed, and it's a mutual relationship. And the third thing we discussed at our retreat is that we work towards considering a predictable tuition policy for all Rhode Island families. Our office is establishing working groups across OPC and our institutions to really come together as leadership teams and focus on that work, and to really articulate a specific strategy, a timeline, and a set of deliverables for those three items. And then we're going to report back what that strategy looks like at our next meeting, which I believe is in June. The third update is our communications update that we'd like to share. In an effort to help Rhode Islanders understand the importance of the connection between post-secondary attainment, the workforce, and the economy, we have a weekly commitment with NBC 10 education reporter Ashley Cullinane to talk about higher education. It's a long-term engagement, and I'm taping 3 segments a week that right now they plan to air on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays during their 6 p.m. broadcasts. This week's topics were adult degree completion, mental health among college students, and the Biden plan for colleges. The full interviews will air on their entirety on YouTube and NBC 10 on Wednesdays, and the individual segments will be promoted through social media. I should mention that when I arrived here, we did not have an advertising or a communication strategy or a corresponding budget, but Beth Bailey quickly pivoted to developing and overseeing a communication strategy. And this earned media opportunity in partnership with NBC 10 will help our office really get information to Rhode Islanders, which is our first priority, to make sure folks understand about the value of higher education in this state and what our institutions have to offer, but also make sure that we have a voice from our office about issues that may arise and how we can accomplish those together with all of our institutions. The final thing on my report for this month is I'd like to celebrate just a few short celebrations of OPC staff. First is an introduction of Jill Olson-Crowley, who's on the phone. She is our new assistant to the commissioner. So please welcome me in joining Jill. Also this past month, Ms. Catherine McConnell joined our team as a former education policy advisor to Governor Gina Raimondo. Beginning in mid-March, Ms. McConnell is the director of strategic initiatives for the office and is already heavily involved in the work. So welcome, Catherine. And the final celebration is the announcement of a much-deserved award from the Providence Business News. Amy Grabowski has been named one of Rhode Island's Women to Watch for her work over the past year. In addition to overseeing our education centers in Westerly and the current development of the Woonsocket location, Ms. Grabowski has been overseeing the higher ed response to COVID that I mentioned earlier, and has recently been serving as the interim executive director of the Governor's Workforce Investment Board. She couldn't be here tonight because she's currently in class working on her PhD, and I am exhausted just summarizing all of that. So, but on a serious note, we're grateful for her work, and we're so proud of her. And it's such great to inherit a team of folks like Amy at this staff that's really committed to Rhode Island and Rhode Islanders. So congratulations to Amy for that. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn my report back over to you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Before we go on, any questions of the council for the commissioner, any of the topics you just covered? Sure.
First, I want to say, Commissioner, I think it's great that we now have a communications program and that you have a partnership with Channel 10. I think that woefully we need to get information out to the people of Rhode Island. And I saw one of the sessions last week, and I thought it was absolutely wonderful. So congratulations and thank you for doing that. And then I want to say to Amy, who's not here, congratulations, big congratulations. I know everybody feels that way. She has just always stepped up when we've asked her to take on another initiative. And I know that she has received tremendous kudos from all of the colleges and universities for her work in coordinating COVID between them.
Thank you, Chair Connell. I completely agree. Ron Cavallaro, is there a point of order you wanted to make before we move on?
Are there two other items for the commissioner?
Yes, we're getting ready to cover those next. Yep. Sorry, I turned it over a little too quickly.
All right, go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, any other questions before I move on? Okay, wonderful. So we also have a list of signature authority. As you may recall, our office is responsible for updating the signature authority list and for bringing notice to the council anytime changes have been made to the list of individuals with signing authority at CCRI, Rhode Island College, or OPC. The list has been updated to reflect a personnel change, the new commissioner at OPC. We have received notices of a new program. Oh, by the way, the report on the signature authority is in Enclosure 4B of tonight's materials. We have received notices of a new program. Rhode Island College has established a new minor in web development. It's in Enclosure 4C1. The establishment of this program is within the role and scope of Rhode Island College. Therefore, council approval is not required. Now I would like to turn it over to our presidents for their updates. So apologies for that protocol. First, we'll hear from President Hughes at the Community College of Rhode Island, followed by President Sanchez of Rhode Island College. President Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the council. As I was preparing my remarks for this evening, it occurred to me that it's just over 24 hours since the jury in Minnesota returned a guilty verdict on all 3 counts in the murder trial of George Floyd. I sent a letter that I wrote last night to our college community early this morning, and it feels important both to mark it as a group here on this call, and I'll share just the sense of what I shared in the letter, which is simply, I strongly believe that CCRI has the opportunity to play a really critical role in helping Rhode Island move to becoming a genuinely anti-racist state. I think the college itself has work to do to become a genuinely anti-racist college. And I committed in the letter, as I have prior to yesterday, to leading that work on behalf of the college. And our vision and our goal is absolutely to create a college where particularly the members of our BIPOC community can feel genuinely safe and valued, affirmed, and as true members, full members of our community. So thank you for giving a minute to me to just begin there. I'm going to update you on 4 topics that are current to the college. Our return to campus this summer, brief update on the summer and fall enrollment, quick reference to our upcoming commencement, and finally, a brief mention of our annual fundraiser. So I'll start with the return to campus. Last week, I did send a letter to Dr. Nicole Alexander-Smith, making the request that she designate CCRI as a vaccination site. I think that will be vitally important for our college to come back together in a safe way at scale next fall. So I'm grateful that she's given us that green light, and we're excited to work together as a team to make that happen for our students, for our faculty, and for our staff. And I really want to thank Dr. Alexander Scott and the Department of Health for understanding why it is so vitally important that we meet particularly our students where they are. So I want to recognize that and say thank you. As you know, we've been talking with you over the last 6 months about our plan to begin to return to campus in a deliberate fashion. I shared at the last meeting that our goal for both of our fall sessions is to be offering approximately 30% of our courses on our physical campuses. So we will be offering in-person classes on all 4 campuses. We're all really excited about that opportunity. And as we think about the work we're doing with our employees, the way we will do that will be a combination really of 3 basic priorities. Really looking at what are the functional roles that are essential for the safe, effective operations of the college? What are the roles that are really student-centered and are far more effectively done in person? And then finally, how do we continue to follow the public health guidelines and be in compliance with them and continuing to put our community, including, of course, our employees' safety first? We are establishing an on-campus surveillance testing protocol for all employees and students. And we are also working with an engineer to develop a plan for our HVAC system. We know that it is going to be important to ensure that we have the safest possible airflow that we can have. I think that is of particular importance at the Warwick campus, which, as we all know, is an extremely large, over 300,000 square foot campus. So I'm going to move on. I have the latest numbers for summer and fall enrollment. I'll walk us through those. As you all know, we hold 2 6-week summer sessions. The first one begins in just over a month. That's May 24th, runs through July 2nd. And then the second session will start a few days later. That's August 6th and conclude, on July 6th and conclude on August 16th. We opened registration for both of those sessions simultaneously just about 3 weeks ago on April 5th. And as of this morning, we are up from this time last year. We have enrolled 5,450 students. That's up by 83 students that were enrolled at the same time last year. And we hope to continue to grow that number. As part of our strategy to return students and to continue to increase that number, we are offering student scholarships. I did cover this at the last meeting, but I want to sort of come back to it. That we are offering the cost of up to 2 summer classes for our currently enrolled students. We know that opportunity. I know from talking to the students that I'm mentoring, is playing a big role in bringing them back to the college this summer. And as you all will remember, with the very first CARES relief package, the college received just about $10 million, half of which went directly into our students' pockets for emergency aid funding. The other half was for the college. So we're using some of the funding that is part of the college's funding in order to provide those scholarships. I'm going to move forward now to fall. We opened fall registration a week after summer, so on April 12th. As I hope I have expressed before now, our anticipation is that we will be climbing out of this pandemic for the next 24 months. So we expect continued downward pressure on our fall enrollment. I do not expect, I'll be delighted, but I do not expect, and I want to set the council's expectations that I don't think we will see the numbers that we saw prior to the pandemic. I don't believe we will hit our fall 2019 numbers, but I want to review with you what we know about our numbers currently. So as you will remember, last fall, we took a 7.4% dip in our enrollment. And as I repeatedly shared with this council, while that is a starkly sobering number, when we benchmark it against our peers nationally, so when we benchmark that drop against other community colleges across the country, we outperform those colleges. And that is truly due to the relentless work of our enrollment team and the deans and student services. What it meant in terms of numbers is that last fall, we were at 13,684. I can tell you that I asked Sarah and Wright just about every morning what we can expect for fall. And she is, I think, encouraging me to communicate with this council that we need to have realistic expectations. And she is leading that team to have a number that beats what last fall did, we hope, by hundreds of students. So look for me to come back to you each time we come together, updating you on those numbers. I know that she is working as clearly as she can with a team to set a goal to get us back where we were prior to the beginning of the pandemic. And we know that that's going to take, I think, the better part of 24 months. So what do we know about enrollment for this fall against enrollment for fall last year? We know that we are down 24% for our new students. So while that is, of course, not the entire body of students that we will be serving in the fall, looking at what is happening with new student enrollment is a key indicator for what you can expect in terms of the overall enrollment. Obviously, that is a number that we are not happy with, and it is a number that we will work every single day to shrink. Again, for the council, I would take us all back to where CCRI was in July of last year when we were down by 30%. So we started at 30, we got it to 7.4, and we will continue to work with the same kind of intensity and focus as we have for more than a year. I do want to briefly highlight, I think, the sort of 4 major interventions that we are working with our student services team, our enrollment team, in order to enroll new students and retain as many of our current students as we possibly can. You will remember that we received some federal funding through the Raimondo administration that was intended quite deliberately to be directed towards increasing enrollment. We designed 2 different scholarships in order to implement that funding with intention. The first, I think the best way I can summarize it is all of those Rhode Island high school graduates who last spring, without a pandemic, almost certainly would have gone to college, but didn't. Never found their way to the front door of any college, never found their way to the front door of CCRI, whereas we all know, had they enrolled full-time, they would have been Rhode Island Promise students at CCRI. So the first bucket of money that we are making available is for those students. So for the high school graduates of the class of 2020, if they enroll with us for the fall, they will have a scholarship that looks very much like what we now understand as the Rhode Island Promise Scholarship. The second, I think, indicates our very serious understanding of just how important it is to enroll our adult learners and provide a pathway to a degree for many more adult Rhode Islanders. We're calling that scholarship the COVID Finish Scholarships. And that group of students are students who are halfway to a degree or certificate and who stepped out of college last year. So when we think about the impact of COVID, and we all know so many examples, those students that were working towards a degree and COVID took them out of that pathway, we want to bring them back in. So the COVID Finish Scholarships is for that group. So sort of intervention number 1 is really using that federal recovering money to providing scholarships to those students. The second is really keeping our eye on our critical partnerships. The commissioner talked about the priorities that we all came into our retreat. We share the importance of those priorities. And we know as a community college, we talk about this all the time, we don't want to be a destination. We want to be the greatest bridge that Rhode Island has ever seen. So we want to be a bridge from the high schools. That means being very intentional about how we work with Rhode and how we work with the high schools. Certainly the OPC has a strong involvement with helping us there, and along with the Providence Public Schools. So we're excited about the work we're growing there, have some opportunities with that school district this summer, exciting new leadership that I know was shared in the written report you all received at our Providence campus. That the new lead there, Maddie Burke, is also our sort of chief relationship leader for the Providence Public School District and with Rhode. So third intervention, really being deliberate with how we approach our advertising and marketing. I like to say that the entire marketing department has an awareness of social media that no one over the age of 40, I think, really understands. I know I don't. And it is really making a difference. We talk all the time in higher ed about meeting students where they are. Well, we finally have a marketing team who understands how to meet our students where they are. I would say if I were asked what is one of our most compelling messages right now, it's that we are committing ourselves to having the goal of 70% of our classes in person for the fall. So, my guess is everyone in this meeting has talked to a college student. I think it is the rare college student who enjoys going to college full-time in a virtual format. So very intentional with how we're thinking about our marketing and our communication. And then finally, and this for me is I think maybe the best example that I've shared today of, never waste a crisis. So what I'm about to share is work that we came into the college 5 years ago knowing had to be done if we wanted to be a truly relevant community college that served Rhode Islanders. And that's doing things like mini-mesters, right? There is data from all across the country that tells us, particularly for community colleges, if you can take a traditional semester-long 15 or 16-week semester and make it a mini-mester, right? So concentrate the work, just as we do with our summer sessions, just as we do with our winter sessions. The quality of learning outcomes stays the same or improves, and the retention rate and the pass rate goes way up. So we know that's attraction for our students, and we're marketing that we, at long last have the capacity to do that and are doing that. Second, you all learned of the certificates that we are bringing forward. When I think about particularly Council Member Duffy, who's been pushing our team since I got to the college, he's right. I think we're finally delivering on that expectation, and you all will remember that we now have 3 certificates in data analytics, software development, and business essentials. The very names of those should suggest, how did we come up with those? We came up with them by going to employers and saying, tell us what you need, we're going to build it. If we build it, you commit then to hiring our students. And so I think it is one of the most exciting opportunities I've been a part of to watch our faculty lead that work. They want to be responsive to the labor market. They want to be part of it and at the table and at the conversation. And I am hopeful that these examples, particularly as we work together as a state to come out of COVID, are going to be real trailblazers for how we continue to think about that work across the entire institution. Last 2 updates. First, commencement 2021. We're not all the way back. So it will be 1 year from now before we're inviting all of you to put your robes on and come back to the dunk and be with us and thousands of graduates and their families. What I will also say, to my great delight, we are able to offer a more meaningful in-person experience this year than we were last year. So if you are within 20 miles of the Warwick campus, please this week, between now and Saturday, the end of day Saturday, come into the Great Hall and see what the incredible team at Ccri is doing. We have staged a graduation with a wonderful platform and backdrop. And we have invited our students to come in with their families, masked in their robes, to walk across that stage, to be part of a video, to get photos, and get onto our social media and see those pictures. If you want to be inspired about the resiliency of our graduates, check out what they look like, check out who they're bringing, their parents, their children. It's the best thing that's happened in that Great Hall since we shut the college down. So really exciting. It's been an enormous amount of work from a whole bunch of people at the college who have several other roles they're playing. So if any of them is watching, it has made such a difference to our graduates and their families. And I really want to thank you for that. I get to go tomorrow and we're complying with all the rules and all the masking, and it's absolutely thrilling. And we will then have a full seamless video of the entire graduation with the Grand Marshal and commencement remarks. That is going to go live on Friday, May 21st at a single moment, just like we did last year. I hope all of you who can will join us, and we'll make sure that invitation gets out to all of you. I have been instructed very directly by the executive director of our foundation to tell you all that our once a year foundation fundraiser is the day before. It is quick in and out. It is 30 minutes start to finish. That is our Raising Opportunities benefit on Thursday, May 20th at 6 p.m. All proceeds from that evening will go to our endowed comeback scholarships for working adults. So if that idea inspires you, please join us. You will hear from students, and we hope to raise a whole lot of money for those scholarships. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions.
Fantastic. I have something to say about almost every one of those bullet points, but I'm not going to. It's great. I have been, the limited time I do get to go on social media, I'm greeted by somebody from your great hall every time. So it's fantastic, and it's working. And I'm not the demographic you're trying to reach, but I am getting it. One question for you: when you're talking about the fall enrollment at this point, I know again we were at -30 last year, we're at -24 right now. What is the benchmark? Is it 2019, or are we 24% down from last year, 2020?
2020.
Okay, so down from 2020. Great. I just want to make sure I'm tracking the right benchmark. That was my only question. Again, great report. Thank you. Other members of the council, questions for President Hughes? Bishop Williams.
Yes, sir. Tremendous report. Graduation is always a really fun time. Question for you: what do you think are the factors that will determine what the fall enrollment looks like?
Yeah. How will I answer that? If your question, Bishop, is what do I think it will take for us to do better than we did last fall? If that's your question, I think it looks something like this. I think ultimately, when I go back to, well, what caused the enrollment to plummet a year ago? Of course it was the pandemic, but what about the pandemic caused our enrollment to plummet? So if I start there, and I know you know this well, these are your parishioners, this is certainly part of your community. Those students were taking care of family members. They were taking care of children who were suddenly going to school themselves in their own bedrooms. They were simply putting one foot in front of the other in order to make it through the year. And there simply was no way for them, from their perspective, to be enrolled at the college. So I think if I start with what did COVID specifically do to cause our enrollment to go down? I think it made just the basic requirements of getting through the day and taking care of your family superfluous. So when I think about why I feel optimistic and why I think Sarah Enright is right to expect that we will do better than we did last year, well, what do we know to be true? We know that our infection rate is significantly lower than it was this time last year. We know that we have a vaccine that hadn't been even released this time last year. We have, I think by today, probably nearly a third of eligible Rhode Islanders fully vaccinated. We have, I think, almost 40% partly vaccinated. We have, courtesy of the remarkable work being done with the Department of Health, this commitment to meet our students where they are and bring the vaccinations to our college campuses. And so I think there is reason for optimism. When I looked at the unemployment numbers this morning in Rhode Island, they're not good, but they're better than they were a year ago. So when I look at all of that, I look at the relief money that is come into Rhode Island, both into actual households, but also into the college, so that we finally, we didn't have those dollars in September, so that we actually now have the capacity to once again just meet our students where they are, ask them what they need, and do everything in our power to connect them to both the financial resources they need, the mental health resources, the community resources. I talked about that at the last meeting, and I know we've got to keep moving, but I will say we made a decision as a college to double down on that Office of Community Resources and really create that nexus so that every student, whatever the issue was, even if we as a community college aren't set up to solve it ourselves, it is that collective impact model, and we are committed to making sure that our resources stay right with that student until they get what they need so that they can actually be an effective learner. So I think a different way of answering your question would be, I hope no one anticipates this happening, but if we were to see an enormous second wave of a pandemic where the state went back into some version of lockdown, that would negatively impact our enrollment. But I see reasons for optimism. I'm going to talk to some students later tonight when I'm done with this meeting, and they see a way forward to coming back in a way that just was not available to them this time last year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Other questions? President Sanchez, Rhode Island College.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. What I thought I'd do is give a kind of a brief update on commencement, summer and fall planning. Lots and lots of work happening on the commencement front. This year, Rick will be hosting a combination in-person and virtual commencement ceremonies. And we're going to take, of course, every precaution with the in-person ceremonies as we're beginning to see, and I think everyone's beginning to see, an increase among younger individuals across the state. And so we're taking a number of precautions this year, quite a bit different from last year. We're going to be planning for 6 in-person, but what we're calling touchless events over the course of 4 days, from May 13th through the 16th, and essentially we've broken it down by every single school. So nursing will have their own touchless in-person events, social work, education, business, and then we're going to break apart arts and sciences. There will be 2 of them. Just to kind of give you a sense of the logistics tied to this, graduates, they'll be the only ones that will be participating, in limited administrative staff, no guests. The ceremonies will also be live streamed so that family members, of course, can watch. Every student or every event, I should say, is going to be limited to about 250 to 300 persons, which is the maximum number of folks that we felt we could assure that to run the event safely. The maximum allowable number in the state is 500 right now, but with capacity and volunteers and just putting it all together, we were much more comfortable between the 250 and 300 persons range. For each ceremony, there is going to be, of course, a brief welcome from myself. Each school dean will present the graduates and then we'll confer the degrees. Very limited speaking, and again, only speaking by the dean and myself when I present the degrees. Candidates' names will be called and each graduate will walk across the ramp. Photo will be taken and then they will leave the event following receiving their diploma. All possible locations are going to be monitored to avoid congregation across campus. We're going to be monitoring traffic flow and parking lots, again, to assure no congregating. And if it rains, we have a backup in the rec center. And we've been able to kind of look at the square footage. It has adequate square footage as well as airflow in the event that there's poor weather on the day of any of those events over the course of 4 days. Lots of mitigation, as you can imagine, for the participants. They're going to be required to pre-register. They're required to have a COVID test 72 hours before participation. Candidates and volunteers, as we'll have a number of them, are going to be screened by our RIC health ambassadors. Volunteers will be tested throughout the week, and there's going to be 6 foot distancing throughout the ceremony, and masks will be required at this event. You know, there's a number of schools across the country that did this very, very well in 2020. We actually modeled this touchless event after William Patterson University and what they did in 2020. And we think we're going to be able to have a safe event unless, of course, there's a twist or maybe a turn with COVID, which we're going to continue to monitor very closely. As far as summer, just a kind of a quick overview. By design, we're going to have a fairly quiet summer this year. Essential staff will be on campus. We have some preparation to do with the fall for our grounds and our buildings. There will be some in-person classes, but classes will still for this summer be predominantly remote. The library is going to be open, as will the dining hall. We'll have only a handful of students in our residence halls, and athletics will not be allowed to start until fall. Sometimes there's preseason workouts and stuff that's not going to happen over the summer months. We're going to continue with testing and tracking, but at a much smaller scale than what we're doing right now. We'll not be hosting any major events during the summer, although we'll likely have some sports camps that they're actually fairly successful this past summer, and those will continue this summer. And there will be a few summer bridge programs on campus as well, such as Upward Bound. We could change, a lot of this can change, a lot of this can change if a couple things. One in particular, if the governor announces, and we want to closely monitor this, but if the governor announces that everyone should go back to work, we're going to look to OPC or the Department of Administration to guide us at that point to figure out kind of the home and work arrangements in alignment with the contracts that we have with our unions. But that's something we're certainly going to monitor closely, and should that happen, that will create kind of some unique circumstances over the course of the summer. Fall is well underway. We're planning to provide students with a full collegiate experience at the college, provided we're allowed to open fully. And this message, certainly, as President Hughes' message said earlier, we're getting that out to prospective students, students that are in the pipeline with enrollment, letting them know, and returning students that we're going to be fully in person the best that we can this coming fall. And although we're hoping for the best, we're going to be preparing. We have several different scenarios we're preparing for the fall open, and that really are at high risk, low risk, and medium risk. And if I could just take a moment to talk about how we're thinking about it. And part of it is just because there's so much uncertain right now. We have to have several different contingencies. One thing we've learned for certain, we've had to pivot very, very quickly, oftentimes on a dime, within weeks' notice over the course of the last year. And we don't think that's going to change a whole lot between now and the time we're going to open in the fall. Although the data seems to be getting a little clearer, we all know that can change. And so the high risk scenario, that is when what we're going to see, or if we see that COVID is still fairly prevalent heading into fall. And this would basically mean we're going to continue with the mitigation strategies that we've had in place all this past semester. A low risk scenario, and this is meaning that vaccines are working and COVID-19 is not spreading in the community. And this would basically mean that it's going to be business as usual in terms of an in-person, face-to-face environment at the college. The medium risk, and this is where we think it's going to fall, and this is where COVID is still present in the community at a level that could elevate, where it looks like it's in decline, but potentially could spike and could grow. And this is, frankly, I think the hardest scenario to plan for. But again, I think the most likely. We would work to create the best college experience we could for our students while providing sufficient protections. This could include varying levels of testing, contact tracing, mitigation, social distancing, and it may be adjusted over time or used in different measure, of course, depending upon the activity that's taking place across the state. And just so you know, in so many areas have done tremendous work on this front, but we've had great success that have proven, even though there's been certain instances where individuals have been in very close quarters. We've seen great success when there has been infection and be able to prevent any kind of spread. For example, we were able to allow the running of our wrestling program at RIC this year, and it was incredibly successful because of testing, masking, sanitation, distancing, a lot of cooperation by our coaches and by our students. So we know it can be done, but there's certainly risk that can be presented. But COVID-wise, this past year, as we've kind of preparing for commencement and looking at summer and fall, you know, at RIC, it has been a very good and I think a very successful year, most due to the fact that we were predominantly remote, but also because we excelled at executing the right measures at the right time, I think, to protect our community. So, you know, we don't know what COVID is going to look like for the fall, but we know we're going to be able to do the best we can to protect our community and provide the very best possible experience for our students. I'll briefly talk a little bit about our enrollments. You know, it's a unique year because we're establishing a new baseline altogether. Right now, as of the beginning of this week, we're about 17% down in applications. But what's unique, and again, it's new baseline data, and we do have some anomalies. While we're 16% down in applications, we're about even, and even last week, a little bit up on deposits. Interestingly enough, again, while we're down significantly in applications, we're actually above not only this time last year during COVID with housing applications, but we're above what we were in 2019 pre-COVID in housing applications. So a real mixed bag of data in trying to see what the end will be. Similar to Megan, you know, first week in July, we were looking at a 12.5, almost a 13% decline in enrollments. Of course, we're going to continue to monitor that closely as we lead up to the summer months, but we were able to also get that down to about 6.5% decline as we approach fall of last year. But a very unique year in terms of tracking data. There's the trend data is really thrown out the window because it's such a very different time for families and for prospective students as they make decisions to attend college. Happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Thank you, President Sanchez. Could we just stay on that data for a minute? I got lost there for 1 second. So can you go over your enrollment numbers for this year again for me? I tied myself up.
Yeah, and I can offer more in depth at another point, but right now, as of earlier this week, we're about 17% down in applications. As of last week, we were even to ahead in deposits, and it's still early, but these are students that are committing to the institution. In terms of housing, we are, and if I get the numbers right in my head here, we're over 100 and I think 111, 112 applications for this next year. This time last year, it was at 91 or 92. I take that back. This time last year, I believe it was in the 70s. In 2019, it was 91 and 92%. So we're ahead again of where we were pre-COVID with regard to housing applications. And again, for the next meeting, if you like, I can offer a more in-depth review of our enrollments.
Great, thank you. Questions for President Sanchez? Senator Rizzo.
The report, both of the presidents, I think, are really faced with so many variables. I think you're doing a great job with responding to them, and so many contingencies. It's like being a juggler, it seems like. And I guess your days are really very interesting. But President Sanchez, I wanted to mention, you didn't mention in your report, but today you sent, I had the opportunity to see it. Most everybody else is working today and may not, but your email from the college on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm going to urge all of my fellow council members to really take a close look at that email, and particularly at the two videos Let's Go There that are included. The message regarding this issue is, I found it terrific. In fact, I quickly copied it to a number of my alum friends because it was so good. And the quality of the video and the creativity in the two videos speak so highly of the college in terms of what's happening between staff and students. It's just terrific. You have to be complimented. I think it's really inspiring, I thought.
Thank you so much, Senator. Yeah, absolutely. The notions of diversity, equity, inclusion is very much becoming part of the ethos of how we operate. And so we certainly got a letter out today highlighting really the work that is happening at the college, from our bias response systems and processes that we have shared with the campus, bringing really all facets of the campus together to come up with these new procedures and processes throughout the summer and even this past, or I should say from last summer, this past fall and into the spring, some active listening conversations about issues of race and ethnicity and having those difficult conversations. In fact, that's where the whole Let's Go There campaign came from, was really this notion that we're not going to shy away from what may be difficult conversations with one another, trying to understand where we're coming from, our notions and ideas about diversity and equity and inclusion as it continues to evolve in our society. We have to have those conversations if we want to have the type of welcoming and the type of inviting college campus experience that we all want and we know contribute to a high quality education. And so I appreciate that, Senator. It's very much a part of what we do at the college. And so I appreciate you recognizing that.
Thank you, Senator Rizzo and President Sanchez. Any other questions for President Sanchez?
Oh, no.
Mr. Mello.
It's not a question for President Sanchez, actually a question for you. Wondering if there's any way that we could get some sort of an interim report before the next meeting, which isn't until July, on where enrollment stands for each of the universities just sent to us. It's sort of, I don't think we need anything elaborate. I don't think it needs to be weekly, but just maybe June 1 or something, just a snapshot in time so we don't have to wait till July 21st, whatever makes sense for you and the commission to work out with the colleges would be helpful, I think, just for us to see in the interim.
Absolutely.
Without creating a lot more work,
Absolutely. Great put. I'm sure, Commissioner, you can coordinate that with the presidents and send something out on the proper cadence. Appreciate that, Mr. Mello. Ms. Raymond, over to you.
Not a question, just a comment to what President Sanchez said about Rick and registering for classes. So over the last week, myself and my peers at Rick have registered for classes. And although I can't attest to this, I did talk to some of my peers and my friends, and they are very ecstatic over the many different scenarios in which we can go back on campus, especially with the flexibility of being synchronous online and being hybrid. So going in and being online at the same time, because there was a lot of worries, as we discussed for so long, that there's so much uncertainty about whether or not we can be on campus, how safe it is. And so with so many different options in how you can have your class and when you can have your class, has really made students much more excited and much more secure in being on campus for the next semester. So kudos to putting that together, and it's going to be really great to see in the upcoming semester.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mackenzie. One thing for certain we've learned through this whole pandemic is that we can better serve students like Mackenzie, her peers, and other Rhode Islanders by having this flexible delivery, and particularly adult learners. If you're working 9 to 5, the only options you have are either evening, weekend, or online. And so this is part of the Rhode Island College Compact that we've shared with you, and certainly an area we're going to be investing more in. But post-COVID, it definitely isn't going back to 100% in-person, face-to-face. Just to better serve Rhode Islanders, we know we have to have a larger percentage on online, evening, and weekend. And I think coming out for this fall, we're looking at about 20% that's going to still be remote or hybrid.
Great. Thank you. Great reports. We appreciate all the great information and all the wonderful things happening at both colleges. We're going to move on to our discussion items. We only have one this afternoon or this evening related to the GEAR Public Higher Education Subgrant. Commissioner, if you can summarize that for us, please.
Sure. Well, under the governor's, emergency education relief or GEAR fund, OPC was awarded resources to support higher education, educational services. These include, but not limited to, dual credit offerings and enrollment support, recruitment, matriculation of students from Rhode Island from K-12 school districts across the state, and then transfer articulation and seamless pathways from CCRI. On behalf of these resources, our office will move forward with a proposal Rhode Island College submitted to focus on these types of educational services. And I believe Rhode Island College is prepared to very briefly go over that proposal.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Gilkey. Just very quick, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Helen Tate, our provost. But I want to thank you, Commissioner, and your team for your support and guidance as we kind of put together this proposal. But I think Helen is, there she is. I'm going to turn this over to Provost Tate to give folks a quick overview of the proposal on behalf of the college.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner. I want to really thank the Commissioner's Office for their help and support as we put together this proposal. We were really looking for ways that we could serve our students better. And so we focused, these are one-time funds, and we were thinking about what could we put in place that would really jumpstart the work we're trying to do to serve our students better. So the focus of this proposal is capacity and infrastructure building. And it's going to hit on some key areas that will help us serve a lot of our students better, particularly our transfer students, those adults who have some college but no degree. And in fact, in this post-COVID, we're not post-COVID yet, but in this era, there are a lot of displaced workers out there that are looking for transition, and we need to be able to serve those students. And we also need to be able to serve our traditional high school students, as well as those seniors in high school looking to have a more affordable education by being able to take credits while they're still in school. So how do we bring all of those things together into a proposal that would serve all of those different audiences? And that's what we've put together. And the first thing we did in our proposal, there are 4 parts to it essentially. The first part is the market analysis. We want to make sure that as we are building our programs and revising our programs, that we're actually meeting the needs in Rhode Island. So we are going to contract with a company that provides a pretty detailed market analysis that will not only show us how or what kinds of skills are needed in this area, it actually looks at our own institution's programs for key opportunities to really highlight some connections with workforce needs. And that information will also help us develop new opportunities, whether it's for credentialing, short-term certificates, stackable credentials, other kinds of opportunities to really serve the community. But we need that market data, and our deans have been asking for it. So we're really pleased to have that. The other thing this market analysis will do for us is it's going to give us data on how our degrees already perform. And I'm particularly excited about that. That it will track how graduates from Rhode Island have been doing down specific to their program areas. So we can really see what programs have been serving our communities and know where we have more opportunity. And best, we can show our students the pathways to the kinds of careers that they want to have. So we're very excited about that piece of this proposal. It's a market analysis. The second piece that we put in our proposal is an update to our learning management system. So our learning management system is at the end of its useful life. And we learned recently that there's no update here because the next update is a new platform completely. So it is time for the institution to review our learning management system and make a selection for a new system. And this is going to be really important to serving all of our students. I was so glad. Thank you, Mackenzie, for mentioning the work we've done with online and how that's serving you, because that's what we need. We've got to have the learning management platform that will work for students and our faculty to offer the flexibility. And that's the point of the capacity building here is how can we serve students better? Well, it will be through flexible offerings. And to do that, we're going to need a new system. So we will be reviewing learning management systems and making a selection and be able to implement something new in the learning management realm with these funds. The third area, I'm clumping a few things together, but essentially it's support and professional development in 4 key areas that will really propel some of the work we've already been doing at the institution. One of them is support for our articulation working groups. I was really pleased. I had a meeting with Rosemary Costigan from CCRI last Friday. We had a lovely conversation about the opportunities for us to do better and more articulation so that our students can move between our institutions more easily. And we would just like some support around making those articulations happen. Curriculum is dynamic and it changes every year. So if we're not constantly in conversation about how to keep our curriculum aligned, very quickly students suffer the consequences. So we asked for funds here to get that group started again, the articulation group. At Rhode Island College, I already have programs that are looking at new 2+2 opportunities that we would like to bring forward to CCRI. And we need to re-articulate some of those agreements we already have, like I said, that have kind of gotten out of joint over time. And so we want to do that work. The second piece of the professional development we'd like to do is we're working on revising our general education so that we have a learning outcomes based general education. And one of the goals of that revision of our general education is specific to making transfer more seamless for our students. And in order to do that, we're going to need some professional support. And so the leading experts in this area, the Association of American Colleges and Universities, does a general education institute twice a year. We've applied to be part of that institute, and I am planning to send a team so that they can work with professionals in this area on developing a learning outcomes-based general education. And in my conversation with Rosemary, they're also working on the same thing at CCRI. So that is going to be make a tremendous difference for our students to move between the institutions when we're not trying to make a course by course transfer of our general education. So that's another piece that we will be working on under that professional development section. Another area that we're going to be working on in that area is prior learning assessment. There's good evidence that prior learning assessment is particularly important for adult learners. Those who have been in the workplace, they maybe have some college or experience, but no degree. But they've been writing press releases for their job, or they've been doing, other professional work, and they need an opportunity to show what they already know. And that's typically done through prior learning assessment. But that too needs professional development. And how do faculty, we need to support them in the best practices for assessing non-academic learning. And when we do that, we'll be able to bring in their credits, whether it's work experience, military experience, self-learning, whatever kinds of experience, certificates that they might bring that didn't carry academic credit, whatever kind of learning they've done, how do we assess that so that we can give them credit and help really move their career forward more quickly? This will be particularly important. I have a little preview for you all. We're very excited. We've been working on a Bachelor of Professional Studies for the adult degree population. And that just recently passed our faculty, and we'll be bringing that degree program to you all soon. And this will be a key part of that program so that we can really move the adult learner through their educational experience in an expedient way and recognizing the learning they've already gained through other experiences. So this prior learning assessment work will be really important for our faculty to support the adult learners in Rhode Island. So, and the last piece of that is we've been a pretty traditional school, 9 to 5. That's how we've operated. But that's not going to work for our adult learners when it comes to student support services. How do they access financial aid? How do they access tutoring? How do they access advising and counseling services? That they're going to need to, be able to access those things at all kinds of hours and at different times. So we need to work with our student support specialists to help them adapt our services to better serve the adult learner, which will also serve our traditional students well and our transfer students, because so many of those students already work and have to work around those schedules to make their lives work well. So those kinds of activities will support all of our students really well. The fourth area is marketing our program. So you heard both of our presidents today talk about our worry about students who are missing out right now. Some of our high school students have missed an entire season of the recruiting cycle. They didn't have as much access to their guidance counselors. It was very hard to reach them through their schools. And I'm frankly worried about the lost learning that we're seeing for the last 2 years, students coming out of the high schools. We're going to use some of these funds to really market directly to those students and help support them in getting into and through the admissions process. In addition, with our new Bachelor of Professional Studies coming and the new opportunities that we hope to develop through our 2+2 agreements and any new programs that we might be developing as a result of our market analyses, we want students to know what's here for them. So we need some resources to really market and let folks know that we're here and we can help them and we're flexible and we're affordable. Please come to Rick. Let us help you get where you need to be in your education. So some of those dollars are being put towards a marketing campaign to really reach folks about what we're doing at Rhode Island College and how we can help them. So that's the short summary of what we'll be doing with the GEARS funding. And I just want to say thank you again for the support and helping bring these funds to the institution, because they're really going to jumpstart our efforts to support students at Rhode Island College.
Great, Provost Tate, that was fantastic. I'm so excited about each one of the items you put down here. And as an adult learner myself, I took advantage of almost every one of those things that you just talked about 25 years ago at other institutions. I'm so glad we're meeting the moment and moving down this path. It's fantastic. Thank you for that report. I'm going to move now to Senator Izzo.
Just a quick observation and a question with regards to it. It sounds like a pretty comprehensive approach, and it sounds like one that certainly is timely. And I think it's something, hopefully going forward, we can sort of plan into our strategies that it happens on a continuous basis so we don't get quite so far behind. The other piece I think that will be interesting, hopefully will come out of this way, you didn't focus on it. There are lots of folks, including myself, who worry about the lasting of sort of a liberal arts education, and where does that fit into the spectrum? So when we see such an emphasis on attainment, and sometimes it seems like we're really pushing towards a very job-oriented, skill-oriented, and we're forgetting that liberal arts. When you mention the when you look at the basic ed requirements, the gen ed requirements, when you look at composition and history and economics and languages, hopefully at the end of all of this, we'll see what that looks like, and hopefully many of us will feel more comfortable that we're preserving and we're not putting one, we're not going to overwhelm one for the sake of another. So hopefully that will come out.
Senator Izzo, I'm actually very glad you brought that up, because I didn't go into much detail on this, but I would like to make this point. One of the things that I think will be really helpful with this market analysis data that we're going to be embarking on is that it will be able to track those degree programs that don't necessarily have the title of a job in the major. We know that we graduate students in liberal arts degrees that go on and do wonderful things. They're serving in our General Assembly. They're serving on, boards of higher education. They're in business and industry and government, but they didn't necessarily have a major that stated specifically what their occupation would be when they left. And one of the things I'm most excited about is for us to be able to show the value of that liberal arts degree. the general education piece of that liberal arts degree and the majors. We know those students go on and do wonderful things. And then this will also give us the opportunity to see where they go and help other students see that pathway, so that you can feel a little bit more comfortable saying, you know what, I guess I could major in political science. You know, there is a job, or yeah, maybe I could major in anthropology. There are workplace pathways for these majors, and we will be able to make those pathways a lot more obvious to students with this market data, and hopefully have other people understand the value of the degrees that we offer at Rhode Island College. So I appreciate your comment. I'm very passionate about making sure that we do really show where our students go and how much they achieve. So this will be an opportunity for us to really test how we do with our degrees.
Great. Thank you, Provost and Senator Rizzo. We're going to move now to item 7, our action items. And I got to say, these are some of the best action items we do all year. We look forward to these every year, and it's really the outcome that we're all looking for and that we're here. So that's the awarding of degrees for the graduating class at both CCRI and Rhode Island College. So we're going to take them in individual motions as we move forward here. So the first is item 7A1 in the enclosures. May I have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education approve awarding of degrees, diplomas, certificates to the candidates who have completed their requirements at the conclusion of the spring 2021 semester at the Community College of Rhode Island. Motion made by Mr. Green, seconded by Mr. Mello. Jill, would you call a roll call vote, please?
Chairman Del Giudice,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Thomas Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
Yes.
Bishop Williams.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe. Next up, I've got I'll take a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education. Oh, I'm sorry, I've lost my item slid here. Next up is item 7B1. And President Sanchez, I'm going to look to you for a moment for comment here. We have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education approve the awarding of a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology from Rhode Island College to Mr. Lucas Berverdo posthumously. Motion made by Senator Izzo, seconded by Mr. Duffy. President Sanchez for comment.
Yeah, I think Provost Tate has some of the details, but we got word of a student passing just within the last month, which is incredibly unfortunate on the tail end of a very difficult last 18 months that passed unexpectedly. And so we wanted to award this student posthumously, of course, for all the hard work he's given to complete his degree and to allow him to receive that degree at the end of this year. Provost Tate, would you like to add anything else?
Yeah, this is of course a tragic situation for us, and this student was just credits away from earning his degree, and he was an excellent student. His faculty spoke very highly of him, and really unfortunate circumstances to lose him this close to his graduation, and we really appreciate your consideration of this recognition for the student who we are very sad to have lost this year.
Great. I agree. Thank you. Jill, could you call a roll, please?
Chairman Del Giudice,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
Yes.
Bishop Williams.
Yes.
Great. Thank you all. Enclosure item number 7A2, Rhode Island College. May I have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education approve the awarding of undergraduate, graduate degrees, diplomas, and certificates to the candidates who have completed their requirements at the conclusion of the spring 2021 semester at Rhode Island College? Motion made by Ms. Green, seconded by Bishop Williams. And Jill, if you could call the roll, please.
Chairman Del Judas,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
Yes.
Bishop Williams.
Yes.
Wonderful. Stands passed. Congratulations to our students across the state and those great achievements, especially in the year that they've had attending these classes. Mackenzie, are you this year or next year?
I'm 2023.
2023. Okay, great. Great. All right, we're going to move on now next to another extremely important motion that we take on an annual basis that is, again, what enables to do what we just did. And that's recognizing our great faculty across the institutions with another extremely important vote, and that's of tenure at our colleges. So item number 7C1 with the community college. May I have a motion, and I apologize in advance on, I'll probably not get the names correct, but I do have to read the names, I'm told. So with that, and with a name like Del Judas, I get to do that. So that being said, may I have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education approve awarding tenure to Janet Nibb, Basil Panopoulos, Marilyn Salvatore, Timothy Stewart, and Tara Swift, effective July 1st, 2021 at the community college. Motion made by,
Mello,
seconded by Green. Jill, would you call a roll, please?
Chairman Del Judas,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rachel Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
yes.
Bishop Williams.
Yes.
Congratulations, unanimously. Now on to item 2, Enclosure number 7C2, tenure at Rhode Island College. May I have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education approve awarding of tenure to Daryl Bassinet, Todd Broggendering, Bethany Koya, Jalen Flurry, Dragon Gill, Deborah Knoplin, Quan Lu, Tamara Knopper, Sakrath Rampa, Carrie Shippers, and Susan Weiss, effective July 1st, 2021 at Rhode Island College. Motion made by
Mello,
Mello, seconded by Izzo. Jill can call a roll, please.
Chairman Del Judas,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
yes.
Bishop Williams.
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you all. Senator Izzo, is there a point of order?
Yeah, just a quick question and an observation with regards to the awarding of tenure. Rhode Island College, it was interesting because when I got to the last page of the information provided, there was a faculty tenure analysis, because one of my questions was, what was the percentage of folks who are tenured, on the staff? I think going forward, it might be helpful if both schools do that. And if someone can provide us, maybe the commissioner or the president, to tell us, are we within range? In other words, are there some standards? If you've got 70% of your faculty on tenure, what does that tell you? If you've got, in the variations, that would just be helpful in the future. I thought it would be interesting.
Great point, Senator. Thank you. We'll take that for action. All right, next up, we're going to item D, which is enclosure 7D, a proposed amendment on Council Title 9 Sexual Harassment Policy and Procedures. You'll remember we had this as a discussion item at last month's meeting. Our general counsel, who's coming on screen now, Ron Cavallaro, explained the changes that were made to the policy last year, where they were discussed last week. We made some edits to them. So I'll take a motion, then we have any discussion, we can have that before we vote. So with that, we have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education approve the proposed amendments to its Title IX Sexual Harassment Policy and Procedures as presented and discussed last week. Motion made by,
Mello.
seconded by.
Duffy.
Any discussion on the topic?
I need to abstain from that vote.
Bishop Williams abstains. Thank you. Okay, again, this was thoroughly discussed at our last meeting. Thank you all. Again, our policy and procedures state that we, on action items like this, we'll discuss them at one meeting and then allow for the vote at the subsequent meeting. So with that, Jill, would you please call a roll call vote?
Chairman Del Judith,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
Yes.
and Bishop Williams abstains.
Due to the fact that I did not hear the discussion. That's
Great. Thank you, sir.
noted, please. Thank you.
For the record, that's concludes our action items up to this point. No, I'm sorry, Ron. Ron's correcting me. I have to make for the record that all three motions have been approved and stand passed for the record. Thank you, Ron. And now I see Dennis Licky coming into the screen to keep me on track here. This next item is item E, which is approval of the application of College Unbound to operate as an institution of higher education in the state of Rhode Island. This has been a long time coming.
Yep, thank you very much. We were with you on October 2020 when you gave us our 5-year approval in Rhode Island. And then 1 month later, November 20th, we got our full accreditation from NETCHI. So we're very excited to return here for approval. One of the things they said in our evaluation is that we were as much a community-based organization as we are a college, and we're very proud of that. And I think when you listen to the commissioner talking about getting 70% of our people having degrees or certification, although we're a private nonprofit, we're excited to be part of that. We had a tough year like everybody else. The good news is we're very small and we're set up in these cohorts of 10 to 15 students. So when they went online, they stayed with it, and we had a small increase in January. But one of our main things is that we have different partners. So we have a partner with the Providence Community Health Center, with social justice nonprofits, school districts, and they're all helping. We're working to help their staff get bachelor's degrees. We also partnered with the private colleges, Providence College, Brown, Rick, and on different programs. And our students, we have one student just graduated from Brown with a master's, 2 that graduated last year with a master's from Providence College, a couple that are now joining Roger Williams. So I look forward to following that with Frank and Rick so our people can get masters, and with Megan as another option for your adult students. So that's about it. I'll turn it over to Adam with a little data, and then you can vote.
Great. I didn't know if Tammy Warner from the Commissioner's Office needs to or wants to say something as far as process. So I'm happy to wait if so, or to jump in with some more numbers.
Now, we received all of the package
Great.
in advance and has been thoroughly vetted. So why don't
Great.
you go ahead with your presentation, Adam?
You got it. Continue to vet us. I mean, Dennis said most of the numbers. We had our FTEs, we met and exceeded our goal in the fall. We added in January and expect to meet it this coming fall. We're about to have our largest graduation ceremony yet with 23 graduates. Maybe quaint compared to the other institutions represented here in summer of 2021. We have a 94% degree completion rate for our first cohort of students that started in 2016. And this year, yeah, it's cool. And this year between semesters, we have an 84% retention rate. And that's remained consistent throughout this full past COVID year, and really remains consistent with our weekly attendance rate throughout COVID as well. We have a weekly synchronous seminar that in non-COVID times is in person with dinner and childcare provided as well. We call our Workplace and World Lab and has similar weekly rates. We're in the middle right now of a strategic planning process with our board, our partners, our stakeholders, in which our degree pathway serves as a means for our students to be full participants in their lives. And collectively, we work to advance equity and the dismantling of hierarchies based on race in our society. Dennis referenced our self-study, where I'll just quote one more thing. They really talked about College Unbound single program, our bachelor's in org leadership and change, as a uniquely flexible program that begins with the student and builds from there. We had 100% response rate from our alumni from a survey that we did in the fall. I'll just quote a few bullet points and then pass it off to the committee for questions. 93% of our alumni reported their College Unbound project had demonstrable impact on their life, workplace, and organization. 87% have continued to work on their College Unbound project that they did as an undergraduate after graduation. 17% of our alumni have been accepted into graduate programs at Rhode Island College and others throughout the state. 97% reported they're more marketable. 90% drive change in their organization. 83% report they're doing more satisfying work since completing their degree. And 75% report they're unlikely to have completed their degree at any other institution. So we're really trying to support a niche of students who work in partnership with the institutions represented here and throughout the state, and are excited to continue to learn and work and be vetted by this body.
Amen, Reverend Williams, Bishop Williams.
Amen.
Congratulations and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
I'm going to do the motion first, and then we'll get into any other discussion that we might have from the council. So with that, may I have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education approve a proposal from College Unbound for full approval to operate in Rhode Island and offer the Bachelor of Arts degree in Organizational Leadership and Change.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion made by Bishop Williams, seconded by Mr. Duffy. Discussion on the topic. Chair Cottom.
I just had one question, whether you have an indication of your enrollment for summer, fall.
Yes. Adam, you want to give it?
We're looking to, we're assuming between 65 and 85 new students starting in this fall.
And how does that compare?
Much more than last fall, but rate standard with what we were doing in fall 2019.
Yeah, we will, we played low, but we are meeting our projections where we had 120 FTE and then 165 FTE for the fall. We'll probably go 20 above that, but it's partly because we were being conservative during this time.
Yeah, good for you. Congratulations on those statistics as well.
Thank you.
Great work. Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think it's great that the extent you've got Bob Carruthers involved too. That just gives a lot of comfort. Having been our state university president for 18 years and a state chancellor of higher ed, it's just great to have that level of expertise on your team.
And we have Congressman Wagan also, who
There you
was
go.
at URI, so.
Great team. Great team. Senator Rizzo.
Yeah, Dennis, and your entire organization, I want to really compliment you on the persistence that you've shown over the years, the creativity. And I have to say personally, and I think probably it applies to many of us, you helped really call to our attention and educate us regarding the numbers of individuals in Rhode Island who had college credit but no degree. And that was new to us. And you were talking about attainment, not even using that word long before it became the word of the day. Yeah. So I personally appreciate the amount of effort you've put in and the amount of education you've provided and helped us see what we need to do to really serve Rhode Islanders. And for that, thank you very much.
Appreciate that, Tom.
Thank you, Senator Rizzo.
My beard used to be red, so.
Great. Thank you all. Jill will call the roll.
Chairman Del Giudice,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
Yes.
Bishop Williams.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, unanimously approved.
So I want to do one last thing that takes 2 seconds. Adam and I were so excited on November 20th when we got the call that we made our own gong with our seal. And to not forget that we got this at significant meetings, we like to bang the gong so I thank you all for the support. It's just the beginning, and there we go. All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item F7, Enclosure 7F in the read ahead package. So with that, we have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education approves the recommendation of the Systems Personnel Review Committee regarding an upgrade of position of Talent Acquisition Specialist at the Community College of Rhode Island. Motion made by Ms. Green, seconded by Mr. Mello. Discussion on the topic? Again, this was provided in the read ahead. I think we've all had a chance to go through the package. Jill will call the roll.
Chairman Del Judith,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
Yes.
Bishop Williams.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Motion stands passed. Next, we're going to move into executive session. Let me just kind of give the overview of how that works. So as I'm going to read off a lengthy motion in a moment, which will allow us to move this meeting into executive session. At that time, the OPC staff will terminate the live stream or the webinar feature of the meeting. The council members, the college presidents, and the support staff from the 3 will remain in the executive session portion of the meeting. There will be no votes taken and there'll be no actions taken. They are discussion topics only. When we conclude that, we will return to open session. Actually, there will be a vote to return to open session. When we get back to open session, which I can't really ballpark the time, a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, I'm not sure. The only votes that will take place after that point will be a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session and then a motion to adjourn the meeting. So there'll be no substantive action or discussion when we return from open session. So with that, may I have a motion that the Council on Post-Secondary Education enter into executive session for the following items. A discussion regarding potential litigation and pending litigation from the Howard Union of Teachers Local 1171 versus the Rhode Island Department of Education and all in the Superior Court of Providence pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2. Second item, discussion regarding collective bargaining with all bargaining units pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2. And third item, a discussion regarding the acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or the disposition of publicly held property pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A5. All of that having been said, may I have a motion to that effect, please? Motion made by Senator Izzo, seconded by Ms. Green. Jill, would you call a roll, please?
Chairman Del Judith,
Yes.
Ms. Barbara Cottom,
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Duffy,
Yes.
Ms. Rochelle Green,
Yes.
Senator Izzo,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Mello,
Yes.
Bishop Williams.
Yes.
Great, unanimously approved. The motion is passed. So Jill or other staff, if you could, we're going to terminate the webinar feature of the meeting while we move into executive session and then lock the session. We'll pause for 2 or 3 minutes here while I go through that process.